The adverts are appearing, offering individuals, people, the chance to, and I quote, rent a room to a refugee and earn some tax-free income. I mean, why tax-free? Why tax-free? Also, remember, every migrant who arrives here illegally costs British taxpayers £40,000 a year. So altogether, there's the advert if you're watching on TV. Rent a room to a refugee. As I say, the bill for the 118,000 migrants residing in this country, the ones who arrived illegally by small boats and other methods, is £4.75 billion a year, each one of them costing us £40,000. The money involved here, folks, is astronomical. And frankly, there's a lot of profiteering going on, possibly all the way down to individual levels. Individuals, people with houses, landlords, are being, encouraged by these do-gooder groups. Rent a room to a refugee and all that. So anyway, let's bring Isabel in, who's on the case here and knows all about it. Welcome to the show, Isabel.
Evening. Well, it's the run-up to Christmas, and I'm sure many of us are feeling the pinch. The question is, would you or wouldn't you make a few £100 a week, a month, a few thousand a year by renting out your spare room to a refugee? That's the tantalising offer that is being made to people in Cumbria, in that area. If they've got a spare room, maybe they're up for making a little bit of money on the side from it. Now, the question here is, how good an idea is it to draw yet more people in our country into the booming asylum and refugee industry? Because make no mistake, as you said in your introduction there, this is a multi-billion-pound business. There are companies making huge sums of money, vast profits out of this industry of ever more loose borders, the uncontrolled immigration situation. And what this does is now draws more people into it on a local basis. Now, you could argue that it's preferable that ordinary people make a few £100 a month, and it's not a king's ransom, but it maybe all helps when times are tough. Maybe it's preferable for it to be ordinary people, hardworking families making a bit of money from this refugee crisis. But personally, and when I say preferable to big companies raking in multi-million-pound profits, personally, I think that it's the wrong answer to the question. What we should be doing is stopping the flow of people, not finding ever more imaginative ways to accommodate them.
Yes, and this is the advert that you found that we've been showing is from the Cumbria area, West Cumbria and Carlisle, and it's an organisation called PERN. They say that in that area, I don't know if this is going on in other parts of the country, that refugees are being asylum seekers are being given refugee status. Now, that's a very different thing. Asylum seekers don't really have residential rights. They're not allowed to work, whereas refugees are allowed to work. So, in other words, no one would object to Ukrainian refugees being given accommodation, found nice places to live, nice families, putting them up, because they are genuinely escaping war and arguably torture as well. But if just asylum seekers are suddenly being reclassified as refugees, that completely changes their status. It allows them to work. And these adverts seem to be saying, it's not just give a Ukrainian refugee a room. This is give an asylum seeker a room. In other words, sort of encouraging them to come and maybe giving them this new status that circumnavigates the asylum-seeking rules.
Yeah, so we know that this is very different. And in fact, the Ukrainian refugee scheme is something completely different. And it makes very clear on the adverts that this is a separate initiative. It is nothing to do with sheltering Ukrainians. And I think many people in our country, myself included, have been very supportive of the idea of doing what we can to help Ukrainians. So this is very different. This is about former asylum seekers who have been granted new status as refugees. And we know that the government is doing that on a very large scale, basically to get rid of the backlog in asylum claims. So rather than process these claims swiftly and frankly chuck out the vast majority of them as basically spurious, these are mostly economic opportunists, and we know from the past that the vast majority of claims used to be rejected. We now are in a reverse position where the vast majority of claims are simply rubber stamped, nodded through, and then they become officially refugees. As you say, that means they can work and they can contribute to the rent living in someone's private home. And we could see this springing up all over Britain. Ordinary people encouraged to house people who have just come over fairly recently on the boats and have been turned from asylum seekers into refugees, come and live in people's houses. Well, what could possibly go wrong, I wonder, as all of this is fast-tracked and individuals of unknown origin and unknown credentials are welcomed into people's private households with families and so on. I kind of feel this has got trouble written all over it. And as I say, I'm really uneasy about yet more people being invested in this perpetual situation of ever more flow of people coming across the channel and into our country in other ways.
Yeah, so in other words, to make the statistics look more favourable, asylum seekers are suddenly, potentially, presumably this is going on all over the country, are being reclassified as refugees. Therefore, they can work, and therefore these landlords, these householders who offer them a room, can earn the money from that rent tax-free. So, this is just one other place to put these people at expense to the taxpayers. And I don't know if you've ever done the sums, but you may have heard my monologue there. It is quite astronomical what we're talking about. There are 118,000 asylum seekers officially in this country. These are the people mainly who came across the channel illegally or got here by some illegal method. Each one of them is costing us £40,000 a year. And what we're saying here is it's possible that there are a lot more because they've been reclassified as refugees. But right now, the official bill is £4.75 billion a year. I mean, this is ludicrous. It's insane.
Well, virtually every day that bill gets higher because yet more hundreds of people arrive because there's no real deterrent to them coming here. And you've got organisations that, like this PERN outfit, which are actively, in my view, encouraging the situation. They are enabling, they are facilitating the so-called pull factors, all the reasons that people try their luck by crossing many, many safe countries and choosing instead to come to Britain rather than seeking safe haven, if that's what they're genuinely after in the first safe country they come to. And to give you a flavour of what kind of organisation PERN is, it's currently advertising for an anti-racism campaigner. They want somebody, they're going to pay £25 an hour. They want an anti-racism educator. That's what it's called. And they want this person to influence, I'm reading here, influence local leaders of statutory organisations and businesses to adopt an anti-racist journey. What on earth is an anti-racist journey? And is Cumbria really riddled with racists?
It's almost as bad as Wales, which, of course, yesterday the First Minister of Wales, Eluned Morgan, decided that 96% of the population, i.e. the white Welsh, are racist towards the 4% of the ethnic community there. So, yes, these hotbeds of racism, Wales, Carlisle, West Cumbria, the Lake District, you know, it's just absurd. So, yeah, this organisation, PERN, stands for the Penrith and Eden Refugee Network, and presumably there are similar organisations all over the country, essentially finding, OK, as I say, let's not criticise finding accommodation for Ukrainian refugees, genuine refugees, but these organisations are essentially finding accommodation, I would suggest, for rebranded asylum seekers. Asylum seekers given a new name to make our statistics, our migrant crisis statistics, look a little less alarming. Am I right?
Yeah, you're completely right. You know, their cases will effectively have been rubber stamped. We know that this has been widely reported that this is what the government intends to do. You know, formerly, tens of thousands of individuals who came across the channel were automatically going to be disbarred from claiming asylum because of the fact they came over in that way. So under the last government, Rishi Sunak made it illegal to come across the channel and claim asylum. You were automatically disbarred from getting refugee status. Unfortunately, this government, in its infinite wisdom, thought it was a very fine and smart idea to lift that ban, which basically just acts as ever more encouragement for more people to come over and try their luck. And it's not really much of a calculation anymore, because the vast majority of people will never be sent back to wherever they came from.
Honestly, you know, so many stories now. We just sort of finish at this kind of section of our conversation by going, this is mad. Well, you know, this really, really is barking, insane, deranged. I mean, it is off the scale. 4.75 billion. Organisations like this, you know, when they're not finding accommodation tax-free for asylum seekers, are looking for, what was it, anti-racist...
Anti-racism educator.
£25 an hour. I mean,
because our country is so overrun by racists, I find it so insulting, you know, that ordinary people are treated this way, with this kind of, through a prism of suspicion, that they must all be bigots who must be re-educated.
I think that the Welsh First Minister, Eluned Morgan, is a racist. She's racist towards the white people of Wales. She said that 96% of people in Wales are white. She basically says yesterday, it's called the Wales Anti-Racism Action Plan, and she basically says that by 2030 she'll have re-educated and reprogrammed these appalling Neanderthal backward Welsh people into being anti-racist, because she believes right now they're racist. I say she's a racist, and I say she is not fit to run a country. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life. And yesterday my phones were ringing off the hook from Welsh people saying, could I just say, you know, just because I'm white and Welsh, it really doesn't mean I'm a racist. It's unbelievable, this stuff. We're going to be covering that later on in the show, by the way, folks. Isabel will be gone by then, but I want to have a look at this alarming, worrying obsession we have with racism. An academic at Queen Mary's College this week, Isabel, has declared that this study of geology is racist. You know, this is just... here we go again. It's insane.